Keeping a watchful eye on Lupin, whose good humour made him feel uneasy, Shears gladly consented to give this little explanation, which flattered his vanity, and said: "I had your address from the blonde lady." "Clotilde?" "Yes. You remember, yesterday morning, when I meant to carry her off in the motor-cab, she telephoned to her dressmaker." "So she did." "Well, I understood later that the dressmaker was yourself. And last night, in the boat, thanks to an effort of memory, which is perhaps one of the things of which I am most proud, I succeeded in recollecting the last two figures of your telephone number, 73. In this way, as I possessed the list of the houses which you had touched up, it was easy for me, on my arrival in Paris at 11 o'clock this morning, to look through the telephone directory until I discovered the name and address of Monsieur Felix Davey. The name and address once known, I called in the aid of Monsieur Ganimard." "Admirable! First rate! I make you my bow. But what I can't quite grasp is that you took the train at the Havre. How did you manage to escape from the Hirondelle?" "I did not escape." "But—" "You gave the captain orders not to reach Southampton until 1 o'clock. Well, they landed me at 12, and I caught the Havre boat." "The captain played me false? Impossible!" "It did not play you false." "What then?" "It was his watch." "His watch?" "Yes, I put his watch on an hour." "How?" "The only way in which one can put a watch on: by turning the winder. We were sitting together chatting, and I told him things that interested him. By Jove, he noticed nothing." "Well done, well done! It's a good trick, and I must remember it. But what about the cabin clock?" "Oh, the clock was more difficult, for my legs were bound. But the sailor who was put in charge of me whenever the captain went on deck kindly consented to give the hands a push." "The sailor? Nonsense! Do you mean to say he consented?" "Oh, he did not know the importance of what he was doing. I told him I must at all costs catch the first train to London, and he allowed himself to be persuaded." "In consideration—" "In consideration of a little present, which the decent fellow, however, intends faithfully to send to you." "What present?" "A mere nothing." "Well, but what?" "The blue diamond." "The blue diamond!" "Yes, the imitation one which is substituted for the countess's diamond and which she left in my hands." Arsène Lupin gave a sudden and tumultuous burst of laughter. He seemed ready to die. His eyes were wet with tears. "Oh, what a joke! My fake diamond handed back to the sailor! And the captain's watch! And the hands of the clock!" Never before had Holmlock Shears felt the struggle between Arsène Lupin and himself grow so intense as now. With his prodigious intuition, he guessed that, under this excessive gaiety, Lupin was concentrating his formidable mind and collecting all his faculties. Lupin had gradually drawn closer. The Englishman stepped back and slipped his fingers, as though absent-mindedly, into his pocket. "It's 3 o'clock, Monsieur Lupin." "3 o'clock already? What a pity! We were having such fun." "I am waiting for your answer." "My answer? Goodness me, what a lot you want! So this finishes the game, with my liberty for the stakes? Or the blue diamond?" "Very well, it's your lead. What do you do?" "I mark the king," said Shears, firing a shot with his revolver. "And here's my hand," retorted Arsène, hurling his fist at the Englishman. Shears had fired at the ceiling to summon Ganimard, the need for whose intervention now seemed urgent. But Arsène's fist caught him full in the wind, and he turned pale and staggered back. Lupin gave one bound toward the chimney, and the marble slab moved. Too late. The door opened. "Surrender, Lupin! If not—" Ganimard, who had doubtless been posted nearer than Lupin thought, stood there, with his revolver aimed at him. And, behind Ganimard, 10 men, 20 men crowded upon one another's heels, powerful, ruthless fellows, prepared to beat Lupin down like a dog at the least sign of resistance. He made a quiet gesture. "Hands off there, I surrender." And he crossed his arms over his chest. A sort of stupor followed. In the room, stripped of its furniture and hangings, Arsène Lupin's words seemed drawn out like an echo. "I surrender." The words sounded incredible. The others were expecting to see him vanish suddenly down a trap, or a panel of the wall to fall back and once more to hide him from his assailants. And he surrendered! Ganimard stepped forward and, greatly excited, with all the gravity that the act demanded, brought his hand slowly down upon his adversary's shoulder and enjoyed the infinite satisfaction of saying, "Lupin, I arrest you." "Brrr!" shivered Lupin. "You make me feel quite overcome, my dear Ganimard. What a solemn face! One would think you were making a speech over a friend's grave. Come, drop these funereal airs. I arrest you." "You seem quite flabbergasted. In the name of the law, of which he is a faithful limb, Chief Inspector Ganimard arrests wicked Arsène Lupin. It is an historic moment, and you grasp its full importance. And this is the second time a similar fact occurs. Bravo, Ganimard! You will do well in your career." And he held out his wrists for the handcuffs. They were fastened on, almost solemnly. The detectives, in spite of their usual roughness and the bitterness of their resentment against Lupin, acted with reserve and discretion, astounded as they were at being allowed to touch that intangible being. "My poor Lupin," he sighed, "what would your smart friends say if they saw you humbled like this?" He separated his wrists with a growing and continuous effort of every muscle. The veins on his forehead swelled. The links of the chain dug into his skin. "Now then," he said. The chain snapped and broke in two. "Another, mates. This one's no good." They put 2 pairs on him. He approved. "That's better. You can't be too careful." Then, counting the detectives, he continued: "How many of you are there, my friends? 25? 30? That's a lot. I can't do anything against 30. Ah, if there had been only 15 of you!" He really had a manner about him, the manner of a great actor playing his instinctive, spirited part, impertinently and frivolously. Shears watched him as a man watches a fine sight of which he is able to appreciate every beauty and every shade. And he absolutely received the strange impression that the struggle was an equal one between those 30 men on the one hand, backed up by all the formidable machinery of the law, and that single being on the other, fettered and unarmed. The 2 sides were evenly matched. "Well, maître," said Lupin, "this is your work. Thanks to you, Lupin is going to rot on the damp straw of the cells. Confess that your conscience is not quite easy and that you feel the pangs of remorse." The Englishman gave an involuntary shrug, as though to say, "You had the chance." "Never, never!" exclaimed Lupin. "Give you back the blue diamond? Ah, no, it has cost me too much trouble already. I value it, you see. At the first visit I have the honor of paying you in London. Next month, I dare say, I will tell you why. But shall you be in London next month? Would you rather I met you in Vienna or St. Petersburg?" He started. Suddenly, an electric bell rang just below the ceiling. And this time, it was not the alarm bell, but the bell of the telephone, which had not been removed, and which stood between the 2 windows. The telephone! Ah, who was going to fall into the trap laid by an odious chance? Arsène Lupin made a furious move toward the instrument, as though he would have smashed it to atoms, and, in doing so, stifled the unknown voice that wished to speak to him. But Ganimard took the receiver from its hook and bent down. "Hullo? Hullo? 64873. Yes, that's right." With a brisk gesture of authority, Shears pushed him aside, took the 2 receivers and put his handkerchief over the mouthpiece to make the sound of his voice less distinct. At that moment, he glanced at Lupin. And the look which they exchanged showed them that the same thought had struck them both, and that they both foresaw to the